Welcome to our very first stream for Breaking the Silence. I'm just getting used to this. I want to thank Whitley Strieber, who's been helpful today, kind of coaching me how to use this. It's called StreamYard, which he recommended. And I'm just basically going to talk about the show tonight. I'm a little awkward because I'm used to actually being interviewed and talked to on camera and having someone else there. So it's kind of strange just sitting here on the screen, talking to myself. I see that I'm looking more at the screen and at the camera. I'll get used to this. This will improve. We're not going to have a guest tonight, but on the next podcast or live stream, we will have a guest. I have probably will have Raven Dana be our first guest. And some of you may be familiar with her. She's had a lot of experience with this subject matter. And in fact, one of her very vivid experiences that she had was at Whitley Strieber's cabin back in the 80s when she came face to face in the early morning with one of the visitors tiptoeing into her bedroom through an open window. So it'll be great to have Raven. Raven's a big supporter of Breaking the Silence and a contributor and an advisor on the show. So I'm going to go over here and turn on this comment section because I invite your comments tonight because it'll help with the show since it's really a show that's not been planned. It's more of a test. I wanted to see how this system works. It works very well. I can see I was able to run the opening intro for the show that we use in the actual show. Now, I think Mary will probably put up a link if you haven't seen the first episode, which introduces the show and what it's all about. You can go to YouTube, which is where you are right now, and watch that introductory show where I describe in detail what the show is about. But to make a for those of you who may be here and don't know the whole story, Mary one night and I were talking, and she was sitting on the couch, and she said, we could do a show about this stuff because we had just gotten through watching Amblin Entertainment's, or should I say Steven Spielberg's Encounters. If you haven't seen it, it's a 4-part series. It's a short series. It's just 4 episodes. It's on Netflix, and it is by far one of the best documentary style shows I've ever seen on the subject matter. Because in the spirit of Close Encounters and other things that Steven Spielberg has done, and I know he's very much behind this because he has a very deep invested interest in this subject matter and always has. He made it very cinematic. He didn't have an interviewer asking the Close Encounters witness what had happened to them, what they remember. Instead, he let them tell their story to camera, and it was very, very moving and very compelling. And plus, he had a very dramatic score backing up the story as it's being told by the actual Close Encounters witness. And the score was moving. It told the audience the emotions that they should be feeling. And it was very striking. And we watched all 4 episodes, and Mary said to me, we ought to do something like this because we have a studio. And of course, we've done several films already and amassed some equipment. I have a lot of skills working with CGI. I have had since the early 90s when I first started working for the History Channel and working on UFO styles. Some of that early work was questionable, but I look back on some of it and it looks pretty good still. I was using Lightwave at the time, but now we're using Unreal engine, which is incredible because as I'm making effects, I can see when I'm making them what I'm going to get before I even render it. And when I render it, it renders very, very quickly. Not like the old days with Maya, 3D Studio Max, and Lightwave, where you had to wait hours sometimes before you got a shot rendered. And plus, it almost feels unlimited. I can create anything. If somebody describes a visitor, a being, a non-human intelligence to me in detail, and they describe the setting, the interior of wherever they're at, whether it be inside of a vehicle, spacecraft, whatever you want to call it, saucer. Um, I can recreate that stuff. It's pretty much exactly as the close encounter witness tells me. So instead of just having this sort of nebulous being, that's sort of a generic being, a generic background, and lots of bright lights and lens flares and all that stuff. If the witness tells me that the room was sort of smoky or like misty and had a soft yellow light, as was described to me recently, which I myself am familiar with, uh, um, they describe the walls, if they're metallic, if they're smooth. They describe the beings, if the eyes are very far apart, they're very narrow. All these little details I can replicate exactly because using Blender, I can model the beings and I can animate them and then bring them into Unreal and do anything I want with them. If they lifted something up, I can have them lifting something up. If they're running down a hallway, I can have them running down a hallway. I can do motion capture on myself and apply it to these things. So we have all this capability plus equipment, lots of computers. And Mary said we should do a show, and I agreed with her because it's really time to do something about this subject matter that isn't being done by big mainstream media. Because big mainstream media looks at this subject matter, they humor it, they don't really take it seriously. And the first thing they're going to do is they'll have some credible people on, like Whitley, maybe myself, and others having these experiences. And they always give us the same speech that, don't worry, we're going to treat you with respect and we're going to let you tell your story. And they do. That is until they get to the edit bay. And then they sort of edit things to go the way they want, not the way you exactly described. And then, of course, they have skeptics. Now, I have nothing against skeptics. In fact, I was looking at the Skeptical Inquirer today, and although they have a very rough approach to this subject matter, on other issues, you will find yourself agreeing with them, especially when it comes to people who are anti-science and believe in uh, cures and potions and snake oil salesmen. Um, so I don't really have a problem there. I have a problem that they don't really research the subject matter enough to be the claimed experts on it that they are, or they claim to be well researched. So we're not doing that. We don't need skepticism. I'm not trying. I want the show to be entertaining, but I don't want it to be a conflict. And so many of these shows are conflicting and it gets people upset. And really, I have found that mainstream media wants that. A good example of that is that back before, in fact, right at the time, I was leaving the old garage, which some of you may remember, um, in Northridge, and come up here with Mary and opened up the studio. They were there was a group of producers that did shows for History Channel and Discovery Channel that wanted to do a reality show in my studio. There's been plenty of shows done like that. American Chopper, Tested, all those kinds of things. But when it really got down to it, they wanted us to have people there who were actors pretending to be working at the studio, and they wanted us to have conflict and arguments and all these things, and it was just something I did not want to do. And they do that with this subject matter too. So if you're someone who's always been shy of talking about this subject, I well understand it. Back in the 90s, I went on all kinds of shows with the Von Smith. I did some with Whitley. And Whitley and I were duped several times. In fact, one time we were on a Bob Kiviat show. That was some of you will recall, it was the Area 51 tape that was smuggled out. The tape was wrapped around someone's wrist and they came it out and it showed this gray that was in this dark setting with these people in white coats, and there was this interesting green light bumping up and down in the background. And Whitley and I sat there watching it. They had the cameras on it, and we both felt that it was a really good rendition of a gray, that it could possibly be real, but we were doubtful. And when we saw the cut of the show, they edited the show so that it said that we thought it was real, and they didn't have anything in about our doubts or anything else. I still to this day have my suspicions that that might have been a real video, especially because of that little green light in the background, which Whitley also recognized, and we had a long talk about that. So that's why we're doing the show. We want to do a show that's done by people who actually have experience with the subject matter, who've witnessed um, very, very much firsthand the visitors up close and personal, and their vehicles and everything else. To my knowledge, no one has made a show where it was done by people who were involved in the phenomenon themselves. Um, and that should make it more comfortable for anyone wanting to come forward to talk about their story. You're not going to get a skeptic saying you're crazy afterwards. You're just going to tell your story. We're going to treat it in a very cinematic, well lit, and dramatic way. And we're going to, as best we can, show through visual effects what you experienced to the public as accurately as we possibly can. I know I said that already, but I can't emphasize that enough. So that's what we are doing, as Mary just pointed out to me. We are doing a show, and the show, we have the first episode up. We are working with, I think we're up to 5 people now that have agreed to go on the show. One is Bob Solis. Many of you will know that name. With Bob, working with Yvonne Smith, who is also a team member on this show. And we wouldn't work without her, as is Whitley and several other people, Raven Dana. We talked about the fact that in all these hypnotic sessions that have been done on camera, they've always been in brightly lit rooms. They'd have a large crew. We're not going to have a large crew. We're going to have myself, Mary, Bob, and probably his wife Marilyn, and Yvonne, and we all have, experience with this. So it will be very comfortable for the witness, and the lighting will be low. So this, as far as I know, has never been done before, and this is going to be in the show. It's going to be very, very dramatic. And as Bob is describing under hypnosis what he's experiencing, you will see what he experienced directly. We do have a few other people that they're going to be guests on the show, tell their stories. So we're really looking forward to that. I see Jill, you've just checked in. Hi, Raven. I'm seeing you guys pop up over here. Thanks for showing up tonight, and thanks for your help on the show. Jill is going to be helping us with, PR, correct, Jill? We'll see if she responds. So the very next episode that we're going to be shooting was going to be with Camille. But we've had to reschedule that for another time. So next Saturday, we're going to be working with someone who's had these experiences, and she's going to be coming forward about, for the first time, talking about what's happened to her. And she is fairly local, so we'll be going directly to a place that she's comfortable and shooting that. And so we're going to do probably 5 shows in a row, but as soon as we have the next 2, we'll start releasing them probably as soon as mid-January. They probably will be monthly, but if I can get help, now that's the thing. It's just me and Mary. We're shooting, we're doing the sound, we're writing the scripts, we're doing all the footwork, we're putting together the websites, doing this right here, this live stream on SteamYard. We're incredibly busy just being two people doing all this work. And one of the other things I have to do, what the other things I have to do is edit the shows and do the compositions. Now, right now, I'm just using a background, this piece of art that I did years ago that I always have liked. Um, I have to do the background. So I have a green screen behind me and a set that I'm going to put myself on. So that's a composite. So when you watch that first episode, all those backgrounds were done in Unreal Engine. It wasn't a real set. And I had to composite all of those. It takes a while to do that, then edit it all, and then take that edit and then start cutting in all the imagery and doing the effects in Unreal Engine and working in Blender. I did all that stuff in a little over 2 weeks. And I worked on it, because we go to the studio in the morning, Mary and I. And so I work in the morning. We get up at 5:30 and we work on stuff, and I work on it until it's time to go to the studio. We get to the studio around 11. We're there for about 4 hours. I come home and I work here. So, and I get as much done as I can, and I use the weekends too. Or I never would have got it done in a little over 2 weeks. So if I had an editor or assistant editor or anyone working with me with the effects as well, um, it would speed up things, and we might be able to do 2 shows a month, which would be ideal. One of the other things I want to talk about regarding the show is that it's entirely funded by just Mary and me. So, um, currently. So we have started a Patreon page with hopes that people will contribute to it and become Patreon subscribers. You can see the link going by down there, and at this point in time, I am using SteamYard, the free version. So I'm not able to put a link up, although I think Mary will put a link up in the comments that you should be able to click on. But eventually, when we get some funds coming into Patreon, then we can use that money to start paying for the streaming service, among other things too. I mean, the overhead in the studio, it would assist. It would assist us with equipment and maybe appropriating another camera, um, and sound equipment and things like that. And software, just basically, we would use those funds only to keep this show going on and getting it to a point where we don't have any limitations. Um, it's not about making an income. It's not about putting money in our back pockets. It's about putting money into the show. So that's why your help would be really appreciated if you went to the Patreon account. So, okay. Thanks, Mary. Mary's talking to me in the background. So if I kind of go like this, what? It's because Mary's talking to me. So, Jill says, yes, PR for sure. Yeah, I'm reading it right down here on the side. So, uh, Raven says, I'm here. Just noticed you asked. Okay. Thanks, Raven. You're 3 hours ahead, and I really appreciate you being here. And I loved our talk today. And Whitley said to me today that he hoped he could see you when you come out. Well, of course, he'll be able to see you. We'll have him get up here. So, and we'll get together. Maybe he can even be here during the shoot. So that would be pretty neat to have him involved in that too. And I'm sure he will be if he can. So he's a pretty busy guy. So this is what's going on. I think I've covered most of the stuff I wanted to talk to about tonight. I'm able to show on the screen. I'm able to show videos. I'm able to show artwork, behind the scenes, and all that kind of stuff. And of course, when we have a guest, um, who I'm hoping will be Raven. Raven, you'll be our guest for the next show. I'm sure say yes in a moment. Um, we'll be able to, I'll be able to show some piece of artwork that you might have seen already from, yes, that would be fun. Good. Uh, I'll show some artwork that I will be doing, and maybe even um, some behind the scenes work that I'm doing in CGI, because I'm going to recreate that moment she had in the bedroom. So, oh, Mark Ware's here. I don't see him. I guess I have to scroll up or scroll. Oh, he can't figure out how to do it. Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. So we'll be doing stuff like that. I mean, I can give you an example of. I should practice this anyway. I can go here, share screen, and I'll put that up. And let's see. Uh, and oh, here we go. And I could share that. And that was a piece of artwork I did a long time ago of the famous praying mantis type. But to tell you the truth, I think the praying mantis type really, well, I'll show you a picture why I think people they compare it to a praying mantis. I myself have never seen anything like that. I don't know what else is in this group of pictures. This is a bunch of different artwork that is in a folder of mine. You might remember the Communion comics. This is how I first met Whitley. He called me one night and up, I'll never forget. He calls up to talk to me and he says, "This is Whitley Strieber." And I said, "Oh, come on, who is this?" And he got old man. He said, "This is Whitley Strieber." And that's how we met. We've been friends ever since. That was like 1990. And that was to do covers and do work and artwork for the Communion comics. So, but what I want to show you is, let's see if I can do this without making a mistake. First, I have to find it. This is why I need time to prepare and get all this stuff set up so I'm not um, having these problems. So, oh, here we go. Okay, I'm going to open that up. That gives me that. I'm getting better at it. Okay, so now I'm going to go down here to present, share. Okay, I did this drawing just the other day. You'll notice that it has um, this collar on it. And the reason that it has this collar on it in this is because um, one of the witnesses I'm speaking to, and who's going to be on the show, um, she described a collar like this, although it was straight up and down. And I put it on there because I wanted to do this drawing and show it to her and say, "Is this close to what you saw?" But what really is going on here is that ever since I was a small child, and I remember I was in a crib and I saw that face looking at me. That was one of my earliest memories. And then all throughout my life, I've been seeing this face and I've had interactions with this face, and I could never quite capture it. I've done so much artwork over the years on this subject matter. And in fact, during the 90s, I did a lot and I was always trying to capture it. And I kind of got close, but I guess it was yesterday morning. I kept having this image develop in my mind, like you were developing an 8 by 10 glossy in the darkroom, because I used to do that. And it was this face, and I said, I got to get this down this time. So I got a pencil, I got my drawing pad, and I sketched this very quickly. I mean, it's like a 5-minute sketch. Um, but for the first time, I captured how feminine she felt, and how fine her features were, and her demeanor, this look of, well, power. There was a hypnotic session or hypnosis session that Yvonne did with me once, and she was bringing me up out of it, or at least she started to bring me up out of it. And she was saying, "Okay, Steve, 1, 2, 3, 4, wide awake," and it wasn't effective because she was standing over me in this hypnotic state, and she reached out and she grabbed me by the neck, not real hard, just grabbed me, and she said, "Why do you come to this woman? Don't you know she can't help you? If I don't want to let you go, I never will." And then at that, she released her hand from my neck and leaned back and just gave me this sort of little subtle smile. And then Yvonne was able to wake me up. Okay, so where do you stop sharing? Right there. And there, we're back. We had a little bit of a lag there. So that was really interesting, and I was really glad to get that done. And now I'll be able to actually model that in Blender and bring her to life in Animator, so you can see and experience what it was like to be in her presence. So I see we're coming up on 6:27 here. We're only going to do a 30-minute show tonight. This was very much a test show. Um, yeah, does do any of you have any questions? Hi, Whitley. Oh, thanks. I'm glad you think it looks great. Um, I've got a what I did is I put a green screen behind me, Whitley, an actual green screen, the one we use. Their green screen method, you can see the funny dancing around the hat and stuff is not that great, but it's not bad. As you can see, it maps around my hands and stuff pretty well. And it's very easy to set up. You just put a green screen behind you, a little bit of lighting on it, and then you put a background picture up. So if you have any questions, now's the time to ask because we have 2 minutes left, and then this will be available, of course, on YouTube as it's being recorded. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks, if not sooner. I'll let you know because we haven't figured out the actual schedule. Uh, Whitley lost the stream. Mary, do you still have the stream? Do you still have the stream? Everyone else seeing it? Back. Okay, it's back. So it's just was a glitch. So we'll have a better idea of the schedule. But I think this was a great test run. It shows how well this work. Again, thank you, Whitley, for uh, being there for me today when I had questions about how to use this. It was very helpful. I also greatly appreciate your enthusiasm about the first episode. They will be different from what you saw in the first episode because they will actually be me at the beginning talking about what you're about to see, and then the rest of the show is going to be cinematic and it's going to feature the close encounters witness, and they're going to be talking directly to you, to the camera, in very dramatic lighting with a very dramatic cinematic score behind it, and just let them tell their story. And of course, as they're telling it, I will be recreating accurately their experience. So it should. I'm very excited about it. Good question, Raven. What they can do is email us, um, or they can leave a message on YouTube, and we'll get back to them. Or they can also leave a message on the uh, Patreon page or the Facebook page, because we do have an established Breaking the Silence Facebook page that Mary and I are monitoring all the time. I'm very excited that so many people have come forward to support us. It's really heartwarming because when we first put the page up, you could just watch it go up in numbers by the hour, and without having very much exposure at all. Um, it's amazing how many people already like the page and have followed it. So that's great. And same thing on YouTube. But we got a long way to go. And we need to spread this as far and wide as possible because for the first time, um, the public will be able to see these close encounters witnesses bare their soul, tell their truth about what happened to them without the clever editor in the edit bay at CBS or NBC or any of the other arts and entertainments. Remember them, Whitley? We've just seen it so many times, and we've just seen how this stuff is hacked up. And this is not. This is going to be the first time that it's just coming directly to you from the experiencer. Any other questions? Because I'm going to wrap this up. I was just reading the stream over here, the comments. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to end this stream tonight, but you will get a notice if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, or you're in Facebook, so you'll be informed about when the next show will be. And I want to thank all of you so much for all your support, all your help, for being involved in the team and showing up tonight for this first run. And we'll see you next week, maybe.